Alejandro Valverde Belmonte has done it again. The cyclist identified in Operation Puerto, under the alias of his beloved dog Pity, is still, 19 years after his first victory in the professional category, the Spanish cyclist with the most victories at the elite level. This season he has already equalled the 3 victories that he achieved last season, and the Spanish fans are asking him not to retire, and we are not surprised. It's only a combative Juan Ayuso that can excite these fans who have been 13 years without being able to celebrate a victory of their own in the Tour de France, and 6 without being able to see them win their own Grand Tour, La Vuelta. So, will Valverde be able to stretch out another season from his ancient legs? Well, let's analyse it here now, and yet, without any further ado, let the show begin. Last December, the former world champion from Murcia made it clear. 2022 would be his last year as a professional cyclist. After 2 seasons in which his performance had declined and his team talked more about Netflix documentaries than about the few victories that they do manage to get, it seemed that Valverde has said, enough is enough. He is tired of being the one who pulls the chestnuts out of the fire. On his now 41-year-old bones, he has had to bear the weight not only of Movistar's hopes, but also those of an entire nation, which has had to endure a litany of great white hopes. The Spanish press has sold cyclists incapable of achieving great top-level victories, like Valverde's own teammate Enric Mas, who, well yes he has finished second in the Vuelta a España, but was almost 5 minutes down on the winner Primož Roglič, or the Bahrain victorious Mikel Landa, for whom it has been 7 seasons now since his explosion onto the scene in 2015 without stepping onto a podium in a Grand Tour. Spaniards know that they can't trust Valverde to win one of these 3-week competitions at this point, but even so, he has been the last Spaniard to treat his fans to a monument, and his 2018 World Cycling Championship victory was possibly the last great success of Spanish cycling. Well, not even the announcement of his retirement has changed the situation in the first 2 months of the cycling season. Perhaps motivated by his former rival Leonardo Piepoli, the new director at Movistar, Alejandro Valverde has started the season at a very high level. In his debut at the Challenge de Mallorca, he finished second in the Trofeo Serra de Tramuntana after a questionable manoeuvre by Belgian Tim Wellens, and he won the Trofeo Pollença. This year, unlike the previous one, he practically won from the start of the season, and he got rid of that burden already. In the Volta a la Comunidad Valenciana, he could not perform at the same level, but he still finished 5th after being amongst the best in the mountains. A few days later, rumour had it that he might have been infected with COVID-19, and in fact, although he was listed in the starting lineup, he did not appear in the Vuelta a Andalucía. But the devil take the hindmost, and after 2 weeks of disappearance, Valverde returned to competition in Galicia, in Gran Camiño, a race that has actually been nourished precisely by the presence of this cycling legend to fill the roads with fans and generating praise from the press for the organisation that created a race with a decisive time trial on the final day. And here Valverde, despite this being a UCI level 2.1 competition, has been causing all sorts of trouble for his rivals. In the first stage, with a sprint finish, the Spaniard finished 3rd behind Denmark's Magnus Kort, and the next day at the finish at the Ozara Wall, he finished 2nd, 16 seconds behind the Canadian super specialist Michael Woods. He could not get away from the Israel rider on the day after Luentra, but thanks to the work of his gregario, Ivan Sosa, who was signed for the team in blue to be a worker, he could get a 2nd stage victory of the season. He was 10 seconds behind Woods, and it was with this small margin that the Canadian would have to defend himself in the final time trial in Sarria. There, Valverde would finish 3rd again, so once more in the top 3, 10 seconds behind the smiling and pretty incredible Marc Padun. But thanks to his tremendous skill on the bike, the veteran Spaniard of Movistar managed to get the necessary difference in order to win the general classification, gaining quite noticeable time differences. The gap to the third classified rider, the aforementioned Ukrainian Perun, was almost 2 minutes after just 4 days of competition. He thus achieved the first stage race win in 3 years, but he also proved to be far ahead of a generation of Spaniards who should have already retired him at this point, and who today are very far from doing just that. Yes, Valverde has been and is a cycling superstar, but there is not even a Spanish rider who is at a level close to that of Michael Woods himself, who finished second today. Except maybe for 2 youngsters of 20 and 19 years respectively. The Ineos Carlos Rodriguez, and the great hope that we have seen today in his best performance as a professional, the UAE cyclist Juan Ayuso Pesquera. It was precisely his performance today in the Drôme Classic 2022 in France that has raised from the couch the Spaniards who must have found it hard to believe what their own eyes were telling them. A Spanish cyclist who showed his face at the front and didn't just hide behind the performance of other rivals or the abandonment of teammates. A Spanish cyclist who did not have to say in a press conference that he was going to fight to win a Giro, but then spend his holidays smoking cigars with his buddies. A boy who at 19 years old is already more of a man than others who are being sold as being the next great thing. Even though today, in fairness, he was completely wrong in his tactics due to his immaturity. It wasn't the most intelligent of races by Ayuso, who, like other colleagues of his generation, is one of those type of cyclists who is not afraid of attacking from far out, and he doesn't really care who is chasing him down. A big strong guy who can climb with the best and ride with panache, and who doesn't ride in a team that is more concerned about putting on a TV show, but in one, as we already said in this channel, that is more concerned about becoming the new world dominator of road cycling, if it is not already so. Today, Ayuso did not win. He was beaten by none other than the Tour de France runner-up Jonas Vingegaard. Perhaps it was a small town race, yes, but a race where Primož Roglič and Julian Alaphilippe were present, and where the French favourites of Benoit Cosnefroy, Guillaume Martin and Alexis Vuillermoz were on the prowl to try to achieve something in their homeland that they do not achieve outside. Ayuso, unlike Valverde, did say that he had COVID. He did not deny any time that he had trained with Tadej Pogačar after doing his under-the-radar preparation in Kolobnev's hotels. He is more direct, more sincere, more straightforward. He is the new generation. He is the only one, together with Rodriguez, who can save Spain from absolute misery in international cycling.